Hello and welcome to another one of my Minecolonies guides, tutorials, tips and tricks videos. And today we're going to be making a video that I wish I'd watched before I started my Let's Play. We're going to be listing the top 10 things I wish I knew before I started Minecolonies. So let's jump in. So here we go, welcome to my colony. It's almost fully finished, we've got every single building in the game here at least once, and most of the buildings are level 5. And this is going to be the staging ground for this video. So number 1 on my list is buildings can stack. What do I mean by that? Well, basically at the start of the game, you're going to feel like you're very limited with the amount of space you have within your colony. You're not going to want to go too wide or too far, but you're also going to be worried that you're going to run out of space. And worrying about running out of space can lead you to make some very ugly decisions in the design of your colony. But what I'm here to tell you is that you don't need to worry too much. What you can do is hide a bunch of very important buildings underground, like I've done here. So you have my main town square, the town centre, the very hub of activity, and beneath it you have this cavern where I've hidden a lot of cave-style buildings. And down here you can see I've got a builder's hut, a bunch of courier huts, and a bunch of houses. And putting them down here and hiding them underneath my colony gave me a lot more room to breathe and design above ground. And plus, it doesn't have to be ugly. You can design an underground cave area that looks very swish. Now, the second piece of advice on my top 10 list is NPC Activation Range. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to go to the middle of my colony to demonstrate what this is. And this is roughly the middle, and it's no coincidence that I have a cage here. So if we look at the map, NPCs have an activation range. Basically, this is a default Minecraft thing that mods don't really change. And Minecolonies is locked into it. What it means is there's a distance around your character where NPCs will load. That's animals like pigs, sheep, cows, monsters, but also, and most critically, that includes colonists. And you can see, while I'm in the very center of my colony, all of these dots on the minimap are moving around and doing their thing around the colony. The couriers are working, the farmers are working, the researchers are working, everybody's doing their job. If they're not loaded, then they would be stuck in place and wouldn't do their job. So if I teleport over here to the corner of the colony, down here over past the university, you'll see that now we have a problem. Most of these dots are moving, however, around the outside edge, we've got a lot of frozen dots because these NPCs are outside of our activation range. So they're stuck in place and they're not moving, they're not working, and that's going to slow down your colony. So put simply, what I'm trying to explain is you need to be relatively close to your dudes for them to keep working in your colony, otherwise the whole thing will seize up. A colony is a complex machine, and each part of that machine is reliant on another thing. So if there's just one courier that a builder is waiting for to deliver an item, he just won't work. So you want to get all of your dudes loaded at the same time. And what this means is, if you're in another dimension like the Nether, or the End, or if you're even over off exploring the map looking for materials to help build your colony isn't going to be working. Now there are two ways around this that I've found. One of them is to turn on multiplayer, open up your game to LAN, and then have another player parked in the center of your colony, and he's going to make sure that everything is loaded all the time. Or there is another way to do it. In your Minecraft installation folder, there is a text file called options.txt, and inside there's a variable called entity distance scaling, and you can increase that to about 2 or 3, and what that will do is load all of the NPCs, including animals and monsters, much further away. Now there's a reason why this is set to the number that it is. Increasing this will potentially make your game laggier. So try it at your own risk. However, it is one way to increase the activation range, and it means that no matter where you are in the colony, if that number is high enough, your NPCs will all be completely loaded. So tip number 3, workers really like their houses. So much about a worker's stats and happiness is tied to their houses. They want their house to be a high level, and they want their house to be close to their place of work. Now, my colony is mostly a tightly run ship. Almost everybody that has a job also has a house that's near enough to where they work, so they don't complain. However, if their house is too far away, they will complain, it will slow them down, and it will make them unhappy. You got to remember that a worker basically lives between their house and their job, and they'll go back and forth between the two as night falls. So you want that distance to be as short as possible, otherwise they'll be left out at nighttime and they could die to monsters. And now it can be tempting to put all of your houses in one area to have like a suburby themed zone. It looks very cool, but the problem you'll have is the jobs that are really far away from this zone will suffer from having to go back a very far distance. So my top tip is to keep building houses around the colony evenly spaced around the entire thing. And also make sure very early on you place the workers into the houses that are nearby, because if you leave this until late game, it can become very, very cumbersome and tricky to make sure all of your workers are living in houses that are near to their jobs. So build houses near to your workers and get them in the right houses as soon as possible. Okay, here we go. Now, tip number 4, and I'm coming over to the fisherman's hut to show you this one, and this is a very simple thing. Basically, when you right-click on a colonist, you get a lot of menus, and it can be a bit of a chew to go through these and find their inventory.
Hey, I got one.
Good job, Sil, on that sweet, sweet catch. But if you sneak up to your colonist and right-click, it will take you straight away to the inventory. But it also works with the building block itself, but you do need nothing in your hand. If you use a hammer and you try and sneak on this fisher's hut, nothing will happen. However, with an open hand, you'll go straight to the inventory as well. And luckily enough, this is quite empty. Oh, did I just steal some XP from my fisherman? Sweet. Tip number 5. Barracks are much better than guard towers. So very early on, you don't have access to these barracks buildings. You'll have to do some research to unlock them, but they are a much more efficient way of getting lots of guards on your colony. So look at the size of this barracks building. This is a medieval oak-style barracks building, but each barracks building, I believe, can hold up to 4 guard towers, and each one of these guard towers can have 5 guards. You will need to upgrade them, and it is dependent on the barracks level. For example, a level 5 barracks can have 4 towers. But each one of these towers has an individual level itself. So we'll go in here and I'll show you level 5. And a level 5 tower can actually have 5 guards assigned to it. So what that means is for one barracks, that's this entire building, you can get 20 guards. Now compare that to the size of a regular guard tower like we have down here, which is only 1 guard. So it can be tempting to spam these guard towers to get loads and loads of guards early on, but I would say hold fire on that. Raids don't really get deadly until later in the game, and you can kind of fend off a raid early on with just an iron set of armor and an iron sword very, very easily. It's only later on in the game where you're going to want a lot of guards. Mostly when you get access to the barracks, so only use guard towers, I would say, very early to get 2 or 3 guards and to expand the borders of your colony, because putting them on the edge is a great way to grow the borders and give you more room to work with, remembering the NPC activation distance, of course. But the barracks itself is the best way to get lots and lots of guards, because just 2 of these are going to give you 40 guards, which is realistically all you'll ever really need. So next up is research. Now research is incredibly important and very, very, very time consuming. So what you're going to want to do is get a university built very, very, very quickly so you have access to this research and you can get going with it as soon as possible. I would argue that it's the most important building and should always be the highest level building on your colony, because each different level gives you access to different tiers of research. Now this is a level 5 university, and because I'm in creative mode, all of this research is going to unlock instantly when I click on it. But if you take a look here, level 1 research takes half an hour, level 2 research takes 1 hour, level 3 is 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, and then the final tier is 16 hours. Now this is IRL time, this is 16 hours of real life time, but not only that, it's real life time where the researchers are working and they don't work at night. So when you do the maths, that says that research takes an insane amount of time and you're going to want to get on this as soon as humanly possible. Research is very important as it unlocks buildings and speeds up your colonists massively. So number 7 is ways that your colonists will get around your colony. So for example, we have a level 5 builder's hut here, and the builder has to go between their builder's hut and the storage blocks of the builder's hut. But it takes her a long time to go through doors, up around stairs because colonists really don't like using these stair blocks. They get very bugged out on them. So what I've done is I've dug through the floor and put these ladders here. Because colonists will use ladders, and it can actually be a very efficient way of getting around. For example, up here on the mountainside where my military district is, I also have a ladder that goes all the way down here and down again. Oh, excuse me. To my industrial district, and these ladders will help you speed up your colonists massively, especially if you have, like me, lots of underground areas where you've tried to stack your buildings. Now, colonists can use ladders by default, but there is research that lets them use vines as ladders, but also research that unlocks rails. Now, rails are a tricky one. You can have this rail here that goes straight the way through my colony and really is one of the main motorway powerhouses of my colony. This railway alone has sped up my colony massively. However, you will get to the point with rails where your colonists are so upgraded through research that their movement speed is off the charts. They'll go very, very, very quickly. In fact, they'll go so quickly that rails might actually slow them down. I mean, look at that guy. He's like a speedy demon. So rails, early on, very, very, very great, but do be prepared to replace them and remove them as they are no longer needed or the quickest way to travel around. Now, tip number 8 is quality of colonists. Getting a new colonist into your colony is pretty much the bread and butter of this mod. They're going to die to monsters and raids, sometimes frequently. And you're going to want to get new dudes in all the time. That's why the tavern is an important building. But how do you know who you should hire from the tavern? Because everybody that visits here has different stats. Well, the way you know who the best colonists are in your tavern is by their boots. Now, as you can see over here, Ambriel the platypus has iron boots. That means she costs, wow, 10 diamonds to recruit, but she has really, really, really good stats. There's a 29 in here, a 19, a 20, so she's a pretty good hire. Meanwhile, here's Asger Ledoux, and he's got diamond shoes, which are even better. Look at this guy's stats. 13 emeralds, even more expensive, but his stats are crazy. 35, 24, 27. This is a really good hire. And colonists can also have leather boots, which is really bad, and then no boots at all, which basically means they're the worst of the worst. I mean, look at these stats. Absolute trash from Levena. So yeah, the quality of boots dictates the quality of the colonists. And obviously the higher level the tavern, the more likely you are to get these higher level dudes with diamond boots. Now, tip number 9 is that smelting recipes are crazy slow. The core function of Minecolonies is your guys generate resources and build things that your builders can then turn into other buildings. And a very important building kind of early on for this is the stone smeltery. This is where things like bricks and stone bricks are all smelted together. And in fact, here's a list of those. Bricks, stone from cobblestone, smooth stone from stone, nether bricks, terracotta, cracked stone bricks, charcoal, glazed terracotta. There's a lot of things that are smelted here. However, the process of smelting objects is very, very, very slow. This guy takes forever to turn one stack of cobblestone into one stack of stone. So what I would suggest is A, getting the stone smeltery up as high level as possible, because higher level stone smelteries have more furnaces to cook objects in. And also, I would suggest having 2 stone smelteries. Now, I haven't done that on my colony, and I've really felt the pinch. Because often when I'm doing a big building project, there's a real bottleneck with the smelting of materials. So yeah, smelting is slow, and buildings that do a lot of smelting, you should definitely consider getting more than one of. Although it's not really essential for the smeltery to be higher level or to have 2 of them, because you don't really need a lot of the things that he makes. Things like iron, copper, all of the metals that he smelts into bars, you don't really need that many bars, so it's not that essential. And finally, tip number 10 is this magic red button here. Now, if you're ever confused about a building or thinking, what does this guy do? I'm not really sure how this works. If you can click on this building and there's a red button down here, this question mark, this is going to have really vital information. Like, for example, with the miner, it explains how the levels work, what tools they can use at what levels. There's a frequently asked questions section. There's usually a lot of really interesting and helpful information here to explain to you how a building works. Even if you thought you knew everything about a building, sometimes you'll discover something new with that red button. So definitely click that and check those out. However, not all buildings have that. And there you go, that is my top 10 tips that I wish I'd known before I started my Let's Play series of Minecolonies. Now there are so many more tips that I want to share with you guys, however, we've run out of time in this video. So if you liked this, if you found this informative and helpful, make sure you let me know in the comments section. Also be sure to check out my Let's Play series where I go through Minecolonies, and that's a bit more in depth. If you want to check out my Let's Play series, make sure you click on the link in the description. And also if you have any tips of your own, make sure you put those in the comment section as well. Because honestly, modded Minecraft is really about learning from each other. Anyway, a massive thank you, and until my next tips and tricks video, good luck and take care.